Hello there, my name is Asleon, and today I will be telling you how I built my Venti. Alright, let's get right into it. He has 1730 HP, 1396 attack, 954 defense, 896 EM, 13 over 74 crit damage, 159 ER, and 15% animo damage bonus. I will say, if I actually bothered to build Venti all the way, I'd probably want him to have, like, at least get the 4 more for the 900. 1,000 EM would be so nice, but I think he's got a nice amount of EM. Now, weapon-wise, there's a good handful of weapons you can put him on. Although which one you want him on really depends if you want to build him support or DPS. I personally have my Venti built support because I don't care to run him as a DPS. One of the main reasons I'm talking about a DPS Venti in the first place is that Venti is one of my sister's favorite characters, and I know she hasn't built as a DPS, and she loves him being a DPS, so I'm going to talk about how you could build him as a DPS. Typically, I just talk about how I built them. Sometimes I dip into some other alternate ways because that's also a way I could build them. Anyway, I personally think the Stringless is one of your best 4-star options for him, being that it increases elemental skill, elemental burst damage. It's got an EM substat, and I've never found them hard to pull, but it's hard to tell how many you get. I mean, technically I got what? A good handful, but to be fair, I've been playing this game for a while. I like the Stringless for Venti. I believe it's a really good 4-star option. Now, other supports, you do have, from all the bows I have, a 3-star option, which is your Raven's Bow. It's got an EM substat, and that's basically the only thing it has going for it. But all the other 3-star options, at least within my arsenal, I didn't see any other with EM or ER, which is why I prefer on my support Venti opposed to crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, or anything like that. Another good option would be the Favonius Warbow. It's got ER. You want his ult up a lot of the time. And then it just has a chance of creating particles. Again, I think that the Stringless is your best 4-star option. But the Favonius Warbow is a good option. Sacrificial Bow is also a good option. You have the ER. He can sometimes use E twice, so he'll be able to build energy a lot faster. And if you really need an energy supplier in your team, that would work really, really well. Now, you could also, I'm pretty sure this is an event bow. If you did this event and you have it, and you don't have other options, I'd say Cloud Forged isn't a terrible option for him, but I think overall most of the others are better options for him. This does provide him with quite a bit EM, which is very nice. I just don't think it wouldn't be my first choice. Like I said, I think Stringless is really solid. I think it's mostly because after he uses burst, he will get an additional 80. But the way this is, it's very specifically for people who can drain their energy without using their ult, because it can get up to 2 stacks, which is basically just Sethos. But it's not like they can't get the additional EM by using their burst. So, it's not like it's a terrible bow. I just feel like Stringless is better for him. Then I'd probably do Favonius Warbow, and then maybe probably Cloud Force and Sacrificial at the end. I don't know, I've never thought of what I'd put him on. I always just had him on the Stringless. Now, DPS-wise, Skyward Harp's a really good option. I mean, it's got the crit rate, it's crit damage, increasing crit damage, hits a 60% chance to do a small AoE attack, dealing physical damage. Your Psychon of the Blazing Sun is also a good option. It's got the crit rate, charge attacks, hit an opponent. He's going to be using his charge when he's a DPS. They actually got like 2 pretty good 3-star options, which is the Messenger, crit damage, charge attacks on a weak point. So if you can hit the weak point, it does quite a bit more damage. Normal charge hit attack with 0, so you'd have to be pretty close to the target for this one to really be nice. There are a handful of other 4-star bows that I think could work for a DPSM, but those I think would be my top picks. But, again, I personally really like the Stringless for Venti. It's what I like for him, and I haven't built support, so he's going to be in a support set. Now, artifact-wise, I personally like VV the best for Venti. It gives him the animal damage bonus. It increases his swirl damage. And it decreases opponent's elemental resistance to the type infused in the swirl. So, in the team I technically run in, it just helps Zhangling do more damage, because he's run with 2 Dendro characters in that team. He can't swirl off them. But I'm pretty happy with him being there. But increases his swirl damage. You could also put him on Wanderer's Troop, especially if you're running a DPS him. Wanderer's Troop might be a pretty good option, because it increased charge attack damage by 35 if the character's a bow or catalyst user. He is a bow user. It also gives him more EM, which is pretty good. I think Gilded Dreams is also a pretty good option for a set to put him on. It'll give him a lot of EM increase, especially, which they probably are, the party members are of a different element than him. So I think if you want to stack a whole lot more EM on him, Gilded Dreams is a good idea. I think VV is your best option for him, and I don't know why Gladiator's one of the thumbs up one. I guess it's because a lot of people have it. I don't know. I don't feel like this is a very good set for him. But for support, you just want to stack EM on him, and then ER is the subset you're going to want the most of, with like attack, crit damage following. Now, if you want to build him DPS-wise, you're going to basically build him like a DPS. You're going to want EM or attack percent on his Sand. You're going to want animal damage bonus on his Goblet, and then you're going to want crit rate, crit damage on his Circlet. You're going to probably want to prioritize your substats. I think attack percent, crit damage with varying degrees of prioritizing. It really depends on what you need. And then EM or ER for your last one, because I think his verse will still be really good. Now, con-wise, I did not bother reading over his cons personally. I got tired. So I'm not going to bother reading over them. You could have paused to read them or look at them or whatever. I'm sure they're decently good. Although I did hear some of the earlier characters' cons were kind of wonk. Talent-wise, you can see by the levels I have on my talents that I just prioritized his alt and then didn't bother with the other two. Support-wise, I would do his alt, his E, his base. Support-wise, I already said that. DPS-wise, I don't know if you'd want to do his base or his alt first, because you're going to be using his charge attack for quite a bit of damage when he's DPSing. So you might want to do his base first, then his alt, then his E. I think his E would be last if you're building him DPS. I could be very, very wrong, and someone who likes Venti far more than me can go ahead and correct me on that. But I think you would want to do his alt, base, E, or his base, E, alt. For support-wise, you don't even need to level his base. You can just go do the alt. You can just do the alt and be fine. You would just do the E if you wanted a bit more damage when you're using his E. Now, team-wise for Venti, I really just run him in this one team. And sometimes he's not even in here, and I have Bennett in here instead. But if you run a really good grouper in your team, Venti is a really, really solid option for that, honestly. And he's a pretty solid character, in my opinion. I'd say just run him with any team. Don't run him with a Geo team. Unless you have... I guess you could run him with a Geo team. I'm running him with a Denver team, to be fair. So you could run him with a Geo team. You just want to make sure you isn't like 3 Geo characters, because he's going to be doing way less than. Although if you really need the grouper, you could just run him with the team anyway. It doesn't really matter that much. Now, in terms of DPSing, I would assume you just want to throw him with some good supports. I personally think it'd be best if you put him with like 3 different elements who all had good levels of degree of application. I personally, if I were to make myself a DPS Venti team, I would do Zhangling, Farina, and Fischl. I think that's what I would like to do if I built him a DPS, to give him basically a bunch of sub-DPSs, and they're all just all swirling and doing a bunch of damage. I think that'd be really solid. But the team I mostly run him in is just Tighnari, Emily, Zhangling, and him, Venti. I like this team. Anyway, let's go beat up Child.
This opportunity is quite hard to come by.
Honestly, how you play Venti is pretty simple. You use his E to gain energy, and then you use his ult when it's up. Nothing particularly complicated. Although I will say, the test to get his trail is so annoying. Because apparently, because I didn't actually end up playing it out. Oh shoot, I missed dodging that. My sister ended up playing it out for me because I got mad at it. But when she played out, she was like, she noticed that my Venti was killing the enemies too fast and wasn't gaining his ult quickly enough. So she swapped him off of the stringless bow I normally have him on onto a Favonius warbow, Farazan. And I was like, you know, I found it hilarious that she had to nerf my Venti to get him to complete his trial. She had to take his damage down and give him more ER because he was just too efficient at killing them and not efficient enough at gaining the sufficient energy to have his ult up. Which I probably do need to give him more ER because he isn't the most consistent with his ult, and that is pretty important for him to have his ult up. But I've never found it as a distinct problem. To be fair, I don't use Venti all that often. So it's not something I've ever thought about much. Anyway, that's all I have for how I built my Venti. I hope you all enjoyed. If you liked the video, please leave a like. And if you want to see more, maybe think about subscribing. But may you all have a blessed rest of your day or night. And God bless you.